Right, good afternoon class. So I'm not sure when you look at this video, you're going through your Chinese New Year holiday. Well, if that's the case, thank you. It must be very great for spending time during holiday for this example. Okay, so as we say in the class, we're going to go through the answer here that I'm going to put up in the YouTube. Then in the actual class, I'm going to go through a different example so that we revise again on this area. Now this is the example we have here in page 73. Right, basically they want us to work out the statutory income for Fanny. Statutory income for Fanny. Right, basically they said over here that Fanny is employed by Pradana from 1st of January 2012. That's the date you start. Pay a monthly salary of 8,000. That's your salary, which is 13,1A, right? And there'll be a bonus of 2,000A. And bonus we assess on receipt basis, agree? So to be paid in March 2013. So this is income assessed in Y13 and not Y12. So domestic helper employed by the at 1,002. Given starting from 1st of April. So 1st of April means only for 9 months. So there's a benefit, which is 13.1b. So there's a free laptop given for personal use. Laptop receipt that we assessed under 13.1a. The value is 4,000. Then there's parking allowance. Allowance is tax exempt. Okay, parking allowance is tax exempt, and she's also given a travelling allowance 7,000, which is also exempted up to maximum of 6,000, and she'll be spending 4,500 for travelling purpose. Right, anything you spend, then you're going to claim a deduction. So I'm going to highlight these to show that there's a deduction later on, and there's an interest-free employment loan of 200,000 taken by the company with the bank, and the company actually paid 9,000. The loan is interest free, so the amount subsidized will actually be 9,000. Agree? So interest free. The company paid 9,000, subsidized all the 9,000. The loan balance at the end of the year is 180. Fanny used the loan to buy a factory. Right? So you're aware that the loan interest is given exemption on condition that the loan you've used it to buy a car or a house or to finance your own study. So factory will not qualify exemption. Okay, leave passage to Sabah at the value of 1,008. So Sabah is local, which include the meal and accommodation. Now if it's local passage, exemption is 3 times, right? And it's inclusive of meal and accommodation, which will be exempted as well. Then the passage to Beijing of 7,000. The Beijing, the China passage is actually costing 2,005, where she traveled with her sister, and the balance is actually for meal and accommodation. So it's 2,005 each, where she traveled with the sister. The balance is actually for meal and accommodation, so that shows that 5,000 is for the leave passage and the 2,000 is for meal accommodation. And for overseas, we do not get exemption for meal accommodation, and again because sister is not immediate family, so she will not be able to get exemption. So there'll be a fully furnished accommodation given. The rental is 3,002, which inclusive of furniture at 400 a month. And now this house is shared with another employee. There's a sharing, and she needs to pay. So now to pay 800 rental, now this amount that you're paying back will actually be a deduction. Right, so that's the thing that we're going to show to you in this question. We just want you to work out what is the statutory income for Fanny. So this answer to the illustration in page 73. Okay, so just refer to your class note in page 73 for that question. Alright, so we want you to work out for 2012 for Fanny under employment the statutory income. Right, we're going to show employment according to the different types of 13.1a, b, and c. So starting with 13.1a, we have salary, which is 8,000 a month, and employed for the whole year, which is getting 96. Now this bonus will be assessed in YA 2013 because it's received in 2013. It's the bonus. Right, the domestic helper, it's a benefit in kind. So I prefer if we just follow the sequence of the question. So let's just leave blanks so that you can fill it in later for anything that comes under 13.1a, okay? So we just leave blanks and move on to 13.1b. Alright, so under 13.1b, we have a domestic helper. So a domestic helper, domestic servant. Right, prescribed value will be 400 per month given since the month of April. That's 3,006. Right, laptop is the receipt. It's given to you. You own the asset. There's no more exemption for laptop. The parking allowance will be 100 for 9 months and it will be exempted. Then the travelling allowance, which is 7,000, and exemption is 6, left with 1K. Right, then we have the interest subsidy. Now the interest subsidy will actually be 9,000, the cost to employer, and because it's interest free, so basically the subsidy is 9,000 and you've used it to buy a factory, so the entire 9,000 will be taxed. It's no exemption. Right, followed by a leave passage, so local leave passage, including the class, just put M and A for meal and accommodation. Right, the one for Fanny would be exempted, okay? And then for the overseas leave passage, without the meal and accommodation, so this one for Fanny, the value is 2,005. Right, we're going to get exemption up to maximum 3,000, agree? So the whole thing is exempted. And for a sister, because she's not an immediate family, so there's no exemption, so you're going to tax 2,005. And the meal and accommodation, the meal and accommodation will not be given exemption, so the entire value of 2,000 will be assessed. Right, so we finish off with the leave passage. Then there's a fully furnished house, fully furnished, so value of furniture. The prescribed value for fully furnished is 280. So there's a sharing, so you apportion this by half. The house is given for the whole year, so times 12. Right, that's 1680. Alright, so we're going to deal with the 13.1c, living accommodation. Alright, so what's the rule we're going to use here? It's just a normal accommodation to an ordinary employee. So you're going to use 30% of 13.1a. Right, I finish off everything under 1a, so we're going to cast the total. 96, 4, 10, so it's 110. So 30% will actually be 33,000, okay? And you compare it with the defined value. So what's your defined value? Right, I'm told that the accommodation without the furniture is 2,008 per month, and there will be a sharing with another employee. So it's by half, and it's for 12 months. Right, that's 16,800, and you're going to choose the lower of the two, so the value will be 16,800. Alright, so let's cast all the total. Okay, so we're going to have 136,580. That's the gross income. And you're going to minus deductions. So there's two deductions you're going to claim here. Now, one is your business traveling expenses, which is 4,005. Right, the approach that we're going to take in the exam, as said by the examiner, is whatever deduction for the traveling that you've been given an allowance, the value of the expenses must first be reduced by the exemption that you've taken. So I've taken 6,000, which means I have to reduce the entire 4,005, so I will not qualify for deduction. Right, then there's another rule on the furniture as well as accommodation that you're going to be aware of, because you're paying back 800 ringgit per month for the accommodation. So you're actually paying back a rental for the house as well as the rental for the furniture. So in total you actually pay 800 ringgit per month, and you actually need to apportion. So what's the value for the house? Now the value for the house will actually be 2,008 out of 3,002. So that's the proportion, and you multiply with the 800 that you're paying for 12 months, and we're getting 8,004. Meanwhile, for the rental of the furniture, you will actually not be getting a deduction. And why we are not getting a deduction over here? Because you've actually used the PV value method. So I've explained this before when we actually explained differences between the use of formula method and the PV method. And one of the difference is about the claim of deductions. So again, class, if you can't recall this, just turn your note to page, let me see, just turn your notes to page 64. Okay, so just look at page 64. Then you'll be able to see the rule that we explain differences between formula and the PV method. Right, that's your adjusted. And you know that we will not get CA for employment, so that's as well the statutory income. Alright, so basically that's the answer for this example. So class, you just class that total yourself. Alright, so I'll see you again in the class to look at another example. We'll finish this here. Thank you very much.